Welcome, everybody, to the next episode of Chiefs Focus First and 10. We're here at JP and Caleb on a beautiful Sunday night after a nice win. How you doing, bro?
Doing good, man. How are you doing?
I don't know. I just felt like doing that crazy intro just now. I'm doing good, man. I mean, I'm glad we won. There were some differences in the game that was very noticeable. And for the good and the bad. We'll get into that later, but man, we've got some stars on this team, bro.
Bro, I'm telling you, oh man, Beach's draft class showed up today, my friend.
Yes, they did.
Beach's draft class. Let me just run through them real quick. L'Jarius Sneed, last year picked him up, beast. Nick Bolton, beast. Byron Pringle, undrafted free agent, put him on the IR because he was hurt. And I'm saying that in quotes because the hamstring injury wasn't that bad. Beast. I mean, Harmon did pretty good. Kelsey did great. Who else did he get? Wharton had a nice play.
Yeah.
Who else is in there? Willie Gay, Neiman showed up. Sorensen. I mean, hey, bro. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, bro. He's back.
Yeah, he looked good.
I mean, I'm just looking at this team and the pickups Veach has done, and it's really awesome.
Statement game for Clyde, man. Statement game for Clyde.
Frank Clark, my friend. Frank Clark was
Frank.
He out of this world.
Yeah.
He's out of this world. I really think Melvin Ingram was the missing piece. We got some studs. Charvarius Ward, man. Remember?
Interception man.
Bro, we traded Parker Ingram, who's going to get cut, for Charvarius Ward. That was, I'm not going to lie, that was an awesome move.
Really was. Really was. All the chatter about Ward, doesn't do this, doesn't do that, doesn't get enough picks. He got a pick today, and he actually took out their wide receiver. So
yeah, well,
but he did.
Yeah, I mean, when he caught the ball, the CD Lamb was behind him. He fell back and hit his head, and it's like one thing you kind of can't avoid. It was crazy.
Yeah,
but it's just crazy though, man, to see this team play on a complete another level. Yeah. And they're back. I really think they're now. Granted, is often struggling in certain times. Yeah, but I'll be honest with you.
Today, yes.
That defense, bro. That was something. Excuse me. That was something, bro. Fenton, my man. I didn't like the shooting at the end. I didn't really like that. But he has some tenacity, and I like that he did not. He did not let them. He didn't let them basically bully him. He was bringing them saying, "Nah, this ain't going to happen," and I'm surprised that that whole situation was kind of crazy. I was like, "Well, what's going on?" And Mahomes came out and I thought it was gonna be a brawl between both teams, bro, those officials, man, we're not really gonna get into it, I don't think, but those officials, I put this out on Twitter. Some people didn't like it, but I think they need to be suspended because the calls were egregious. Yeah, and I'm just gonna say that I think this is the same crew we had in the Super Bowl, and it was pretty bad. That's all I'm gonna say. It was the
same crew. It was the same.
Well, we won, and that's all I'm gonna say about that. But something has to change, and I think the Kansas City media and the fans are done with them because we're very irritated as a group with the way they're doing things.
Yeah, it was a rough ride with some of the calls, and really with the officiating. And I actually put a tweet out today. It was meant to be comical, but actually true too. I didn't know, I wanted to know when Buck and Aikman's contract was going to end at some point, because honestly, if you listen to Aikman, all he talked about was why the Cowboys didn't get penalties.
Sorry, I interrupted you. He was basically acting like a Cowboys fan. I'm like, look, we need Clark Hunt. If you're listening to this, please do this. We need an option to where let's watch the game on the TV, but Mitch Holtz is the one his voice we can hear, because it's getting rough out here. I'm not gonna lie, it's getting very rough.
It's hard to do for people that are out of state. There has to be a way. There should be a way of live streaming the announcers from Kansas City.
Well, he's at every game. That's the thing. Just hook them up to a TV, how you do the TV, and let's roll from that. Chiefs fans, we should be able to hear it like that. Yeah. But regardless of it, man, what were your thoughts on the game? Regardless of all that aside, the officiating, Aikman and Buck, how do you think? What do you think about this game, man? What was a positive you took away?
Positive is I think our defense played honestly, and people that it maybe looked at different ways. I think we played like a top 5 defense. We played against a team that scored on their average throughout the season was 31 points a game. They scored 9. They didn't score a touchdown against us. If I remember right, they also going back to 2019, if I'm not mistaken, they had scored or not allowed a opening drive score.
Yeah.
And also they had scored, I don't know how many, I think it was every game this season they had scored on their opening drive. I think it was a touchdown, maybe, if I'm not mistaken. There was another stat in there. But our defense, in my opinion, played like a top 5 defense. They
did
absolutely phenomenal in every aspect. I don't know that I don't see them going backwards in any way. Chris Jones, lights out.
A beast, a man amongst boys. It seemed like he was.
Oh my gosh,
he was crazy out there, man. It was ridiculous. That's why Chris Jones is great in the middle, man.
Yeah,
he just was he was just better than them.
Yeah.
Now people are going to say, well, the Cowboys offense line had issues. Well, yeah, they did have issues, but the thing was,
they were missing
a
couple of players,
very well.
But their players, I think they were missing were edges. They weren't. Yeah. They were their guards, weren't they? They weren't.
Well, they normally have a good offensive line, but they just did so much better. They just did so much better.
And that's the one thing I got to say about it. Buck, I think Buck said it. I don't think Aikman did, but Buck said it today. He said normally this offensive line, no defensive line has handled them as well as the Chiefs have. And we just our defensive line just manhandled them.
They only got 3 field goals this game, and this is the first time the Cowboys have not scored a touchdown all season. That's a testament, because we were all thinking, well, I said it was going to be an 8-point game for the Chiefs, 8-point spread. I know you said closer to 10, but when I was looking, I was like, this game could be a high score, but it really wasn't. The Chiefs.
Well, there's a reason behind that. Yeah, on our side anyway, offensively.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, and I'm just kind of looking at it like they played so much better than what I expected to. Now, granted, I wanted to be better on offense, but man, that defense, if you can do something to them, that's really good. Now, granted, they didn't have they didn't have Amari Cooper because of COVID, and then CD Lamb got injured in the second half, but that offense was still rolling, but the defense just stepped up, man. So I think that just shows us.
They still have a great offense, though, man. They've got some playmakers on that offense. Zeke was shut down. I don't know how many yards he actually ended up with, but it wasn't many. You could probably look up the stats quicker than I can, but I don't think he had more than like 40 yards, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it wasn't much. I think we kept him under maybe, was it 200 yards?
No, I'm talking about Zeke himself, but yeah, they were definitely.
So I have the stats right here. So total yards, the Chiefs had 370 to the Cowboys 276. Passing yards, 244 to the Cowboys 194. Rushing yards, 126 to the Cowboys 82. Yards per play, 5.6 for the Chiefs and 4.3 for the Cowboys. I said that's pretty impressive, man.
I'd say so too.
They basically had a little bit over basically middle, about almost 300 rough. Well, I have 276 total yards, which isn't bad. The Chiefs had 370. I think this was a great game because it showed us that the offense came up and did what they had to do. Now, granted, could they have done a lot better and maybe buried them earlier? Yes. But I feel like what we saw was the defense kept bringing it. And it seemed like as long as the game continued, they kept bringing it. And that's something, man, I don't think I've seen in the Chiefs defense in a long while. They seem to age like fine wine in these games.
Yeah.
They seem to age like some fine wine. They know what they're doing.
They really do. And offensively, you could see the difference from last week to this week. There was an incident on the sideline when Josh dropped a pass. Well, he didn't really drop it. It was missed. Don't think the ball was actually intended for him. I think it was just, trying to make something. I thought
that ball was catchable.
Well, it may have been catchable, but I don't think it was really intended for him, is what I should say. Maybe I should.
I don't think there's anyone behind him. I don't think.
Well, no, maybe not. But as I said, I don't think it was actually intended for him. I think it was actually a different play design, and it broke down. So he went to the next receiver, and it just happened to be Josh, and the ball got dropped. Regardless, And there was a confrontation on the sidelines between Mahomes and Bieniemy, and uh, I'm just going to say it. Look, man, last week Andy called every single play of that game.
That makes sense why the offense was on fire.
Exactly. We went from scoring 41 points on against a defense that honestly, I don't know if they're better, worse, or the same as the Cowboys defense. But our offensive plays this week were different than they were last week. Um, Travis Kelce, I can see it in his face. He looked like he did 3 weeks ago, as far as his expressions were concerned. And I noticed that there were some differences in the way Mahomes approached things. I'm not going to elaborate much more on it other than the fact that EB was calling the plays for the majority of this game. And I did make a phone call at one point after that argument after that confrontation, I should say. And it was a confrontation. There's going to be a change next year.
I wouldn't be surprised. It's kind of what we've seen so far. I don't want there to be a change, but it looks like if like what you're saying is right, Andy was calling the calls. I mean, they were balling out like no other. So,
well, I love Andy, and I love Andy's never going to change who he is, and that's what makes Andy Andy. Okay.
Yeah.
He is the person that will always give someone the benefit of the doubt. He doesn't want to embarrass someone. He doesn't want to call someone out. But at some point, when you see your team as a whole struggle, and then you have to do something. And when you step in and you see the difference of not only how the offense plays, but also in the emotion of your offense, the way your team reacts, the happiness of that team, the emotions, everything that we saw during that Raiders game. Look, it never made a difference how bad the Raiders were prior to last week or how good they were. It was always a struggle because it's a divisional game. We always had to fight tooth and nail, no matter how good we were, how great our defense was, how great our offense was. It was always a close, we had a couple blowout games against the Raiders, yes, but we also had a lot of close games against them when they were rough. They were a lot worse than they were this year.
They're like 9 out of 10 times it's going to be a tough game. 9 out of 10, it's always going to be a tough game, regardless of what the record is.
Exactly. But then you had Andy step in, and he called every one of those plays. He let Mahomes do his thing, make judgment calls on the field, and it worked out better than anybody could have ever imagined. This week, it was the opposite again, to a degree. Mahomes was out there calling plays to a degree, but he was getting a lot of that from the sidelines, and those weren't. Andy was on the opposite end of the field, basically sitting on a bench, which I know that's probably his knees at this point, from what I understand.
Yeah, he was limping.
His knees hurting pretty bad.
I was watching my parents, and like, he's limping. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't look good.
His knees are hurting, and that's, from what I understand, that's supposed to be addressed in the off season. But for everybody else that thinks, somebody put out on one of the these outlets that he was sick. He's not sick anymore. He was at one point weeks ago. He's doing better in that aspect. They don't even know how he was sick or why he was sick. They just put out he was sick because they heard something that we had said on our show. But and we never even got into what his illness actually was. But regardless, that part of it's better. He's had bad knees for a while. From what I understand, he is going to get those worked on, especially the one worked on this year in the off season. I was told that he has no plans on retiring. Somebody else put that out on Twitter that we're going to see a retirement at the end of this year, alluding to Andy. At this point, from what he has told people close to the circle that I deal with, he has no plans on retiring. He's doing everything he's supposed to be doing to